Lance Barber returning as George and Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. First look and story details revealed. CBS Young Sheldon spinoff, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, has been steadily building excitement since it was announced. As the first official expansion of the Big Bang Theory prequel universe, the series already promised to dive deeper into the lives of George Jr. Montana Jordan and Mandy Emily Osment as they navigate marriage and parenthood. But now, a newly released first-look image and early story details reveal a surprise that will thrill longtime fans of Young Sheldon. Lance Barber is officially returning as George Cooper Sr. The decision to bring back Barber, whose character died before the events of the Big Bang Theory, instantly shifts the emotional weight of the series. For 6 seasons of Young Sheldon, Barber played George with warmth, humor, and understated tragedy, gradually reshaping fans' perception of the man Sheldon often spoke of so coldly in the Big Bang Theory. His death in Young Sheldon Season 6 hit hard, but it also marked a turning point for the family. Now, the producer's bold choice to have Barber return as George signals that Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage won't just be a breezy sitcom about newlyweds. It will be a heartfelt continuation of the Cooper story, steeped in nostalgia and second chances. George Cooper Sr. returns, but how? CBS has confirmed Barber's involvement, but has been intentionally vague about how George will appear. The official logline teases that family ties continue to shape Georgie and Mandy's journey as they build a life together. And the first look still shows Barber sitting at a kitchen table opposite Montana Jordan's Georgie, a proud smile on his face. This instantly raises questions. George Sr. died when Sheldon was still a teenager. In Young Sheldon's timeline, Georgie and Mandy's wedding takes place after his funeral. So Barber's presence can't be as simple as George Sr. walking in through the door. Instead, it seems the spin-off will take a creative approach, using flashbacks, dreams, or even imagined conversations to allow Georgie, now a husband and father, to process his grief and draw strength from his dad's memory. In an interview accompanying the first look photo, executive producer Chuck Lorre hinted that George Sr.'s return will be poignant but playful. That sounds very much in keeping with the way Young Sheldon treated its most emotional material, bittersweet but grounded. We always felt like George Sr. still had things to say to his kids, Lorre explained. This show gave us an opportunity to explore that in a way that feels organic, not gimmicky. The result could be some of the most touching scenes of the entire franchise, with Barber's George serving as a kind of moral anchor for Georgie as he tries to avoid repeating his father's mistakes. A different perspective on George Sr. Bringing Barber back also allows the spin-off to deepen one of Young Sheldon's central themes: how memory and perspective shape the way we see our parents. The Big Bang Theory painted George Sr. as a philandering, often absent father. Young Sheldon softened that portrait, revealing a man who loved his kids but was flawed and overwhelmed. Now, in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, we'll see George Sr. through Georgie's eyes as an adult. This could lead to fascinating parallels. Georgie once resented his father for the long hours and compromises he made to support the family. Now he's a young dad himself, facing the same pressure to provide for a wife and child. Flashbacks to George Sr.'s sacrifices may reframe Georgie's understanding of his father, offering fans a third, even more complex view of the character. There's also a sense of poetic justice in Lance Barber's return. In Young Sheldon, he spent seasons laying the groundwork for a character we only knew secondhand from Sheldon's sarcastic recollections. Here, Barber gets to play George Sr. as a fully realized figure in his own right, someone whose influence lives on, not just as a prelude to Sheldon's story, but as an integral part of Georgie's. The first look, a kitchen scene full of subtext. The first look image released by CBS may seem simple at first glance, but it's loaded with meaning. The photo shows Georgie at a familiar Cooper family kitchen table, staring intently at George Sr., who appears relaxed and warmly engaged. Georgie's wedding band is visible, a subtle reminder that he's now walking in his father's shoes. Set designers have recreated the Cooper's old kitchen down to the tiniest detail, same wallpaper, same wood paneling, even the same worn-down chairs. But a new baby stroller peeks out from the corner, symbolizing Georgie's new role as a parent. If this is indeed a flashback or dream sequence, it's cleverly staged to blur the line between past and present. The set invites fans to feel like they've stepped back into Young Sheldon, but also to recognize that this is a new show with new stakes. Story details. What we know so far. Beyond George Sr.'s return, CBS has shared a few tantalizing hints about Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. According to the network, the series begins shortly after Georgie and Mandy's courthouse wedding. The pilot episode finds them moving into a small starter home, with Georgie working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Mandy, meanwhile, struggles to balance motherhood with her own ambitions. Recurring characters will include Mandy's parents, Jim and Audrey M.C., Alistair Rachel Bay Jones, and Will Sasso, whose disapproval of Georgie provides both comedy and tension. Meanwhile, Missy Reagan Revord is expected to make frequent appearances as a babysitter and confidant. Even Sheldon may pop in for the occasional cameo, though CBS is keeping details under wraps. The show's writers promise that First Marriage will be less about Sheldon's genius and more about everyday life in small-town Texas. The tone is described as a hybrid of young Sheldon's nostalgic dramedy and a more traditional family sitcom, leaning into the humor of newlyweds learning on the fly. But George S.R.'s presence adds a richer emotional layer. As Georgie tries to support his family, he finds himself haunted, sometimes literally, by memories of his father. In one episode teased by CBS, Georgie dreams he's sitting in the bleachers of his old high school football field with George Sr., discussing whether he should take a risky new job offer. These visits from his father become a recurring device, guiding Georgie while also revealing new insights into George's own regrets and hopes for his kids. Why this matters to fans. For fans of young Sheldon, Barber's return feels like a gift. George S.R.'s death left a gaping hole in the Cooper family narrative, and many viewers weren't ready to say goodbye. Bringing him back, if only in memories or flashbacks, allows the franchise to honor the character and the actor who made him so memorable. It also signals that CBS understands what made young Sheldon resonate beyond just jokes about physics or nerd culture. The show worked because it was, at its heart, a family story. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage seems poised to continue that tradition, using George Sr. as an emotional bridge between the old and the new. This move could also elevate Georgie's arc. In young Sheldon, he often played comic relief, the sarcastic older brother with a rebellious streak. Here he's front and center, and his relationship with his father, even posthumously, gives him depth. Seeing Georgie wrestle with the same choices George Sr. once faced might turn him into one of the franchise's most compelling characters. Barber's perspective. Lance Barber himself has expressed gratitude for the chance to return. In a statement released alongside the first look photo, he said, "George Sr. has meant so much to me over the years. Getting to step back into his boots, even in this new way, is incredibly meaningful. I'm excited for fans to see another side of him and how his love for his family echoes through their lives." That last phrase, echoes through their lives, may be a clue to how George Sr. will function in the show. He's no ghost, but an echo, a composite of Georgie's memories, advice he wishes he'd heard, and wisdom he didn't know his dad had until it was too late. A chance to rewrite the legacy. One of the most intriguing aspects of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is its potential to subtly rewrite George S.R.'s legacy. Not in a retcon sense, his death and flaws remain canon, but by reframing him as a source of inspiration rather than just a tragic cautionary tale. In The Big Bang Theory, George Sr. was mostly a punchline. In young Sheldon, he became a tragic hero. In First Marriage,